Want to support the show? There are several ways to do that. One is to give us a 5-star rating to help people find us. Another is to become a patron of our show. We also have a store where we have amazing merch designed by Ashton Green and Coda. Follow the link in the description below and enjoy the episode. Hi, welcome to the Dartarian Show. I'm Alexander Dartarian.
And I'm Dominic Sykes.
And today we're going to do an Unsolved episode.
Yes.
And we're going to the state of Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Atlanta, Georgia. Absolutely. The Atlanta child murderers. And this is semi-solved.
Yeah.
They think that they caught the guy, but there's a lot of ambiguity to who were the murderers and if there were multiple serial killers at work. Great coverage of these events is Mindhunters Season 2.
Yeah. That's
also True Detective Season 2 as well, I think. Right?
I'm not sure. I haven't seen that one.
True Detective, I think they did an episode on it as well. So it's a huge true crime story, and we wanted to cover it. It's probably the most famous of Georgia, serial killer wise. Mm-hmm. So, we're going to be doing the Atlanta child murders.
All right. So in the late 1970s and early 80s, a mysterious killer terrorized African American communities in Atlanta. One by one, African American children and young adults were being kidnapped and turning up dead days or weeks later. These cases would later become known as the Atlanta child murders. Police eventually arrested a local man named Wayne Williams in connection to the heinous crimes, but Williams was only ever convicted of 2 murders, far less than the 29 slayings he was implicated in. Additionally, he was found guilty of killing 2 men in their 20s, not children. So, although the homicides appeared to stop after Williams was arrested, some people believe that he was not responsible for the child murders, including some of the victims' families. Mm-hmm. Don't think he did it. As you said, it was covered in Mindhunter, and a lot of other documentaries and stuff too. There's like one specifically, I think, on HBO.
Yeah.
That does it. So starting from the beginning, on a summer day in July 1979, the first body linked to the child murders case was discovered. 13-year-old Alfred Evans. He was found in a vacant lot, his cold body shirtless and barefoot. He'd been killed by strangulation. Tragically, he had just disappeared 3 days earlier. But as police were investigating the apparent crime scene in the vacant lot, they couldn't help but notice a strong odor emanating from nearby vines. And they would soon discover the body of another black child, 14-year-old Edward Hope Smith. Unlike Evans, Smith had been killed by gunshot. But eerily, he was found just 150 feet away from Evans. So that's kind of weird. So the first...
And that was with a .22 caliber is what he was killed with.
Right.
Which, I mean, I don't know if you know this personally and stuff. The .22 caliber, it is very effective to kill you, but you have to be really close for it to be that effective to kill someone. It was the upper body, upper torso shot. So, I mean, obviously he's a child, so not that hard.
Right.
To kill him with .22, but I think that's going to be important, the caliber of the weapon.
Right. We will find out. So, the deaths of Evans and Smith were brutal, but the authorities weren't too alarmed. They simply wrote it off as being drug-related. Typical.
Yeah.
Then a few months later, more black youth started turning up dead. The next bodies uncovered were 14-year-old Milton Harvey and 9-year-old Yusuf Bell. Both children had been strangled to death, like Smith. Mm-hmm. Bell, the fourth victim, had been living in a housing project just 4 blocks away from where his body was found. His death hit the local community especially hard. So that's 4 murdered kids in the span of a few months, and that raised suspicion among the victims' families that the crimes could be related. Still, the Atlanta police did not establish any official links between the murders. So at this point, they're still not, connecting the cases.
Yeah. Well, even in the late 70s and the early 80s, the serial killer phenomenon was just starting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they had just caught, like, freaking, Lord, like, Ted Bundy. Like, Ted Bundy was around. Jeffrey Dahmer wasn't around yet. John Wayne Gacy. Mm-hmm. Like, they were just now catching some of these serial killers.
Right.
So, I mean, like, the term serial killer, I don't even think was coined yet.
Probably not, or it had just, like, freshly been... And behavioral science really wasn't that much of a thing either.
No, absolutely not.
So they really didn't have a profile for serial killers too much at this point, I don't think. But yeah, I agree with what you were saying. By March 1980, the death toll had reached 6. At this point, it became increasingly clear to the residents that their communities were in serious danger. Parents started imposing curfews on their children. And yet, victims kept turning up. And they were almost all boys except for 2 girls. And though a couple of victims linked to the case were later identified as adult men, most of them were children and all of them were black. African American communities in and around Atlanta were gripped with fear and anxiety, but they were also extremely frustrated since the Atlanta police still didn't draw any connection between the cases. So, obviously and understandably, the communities are mad that the police department isn't doing their job, So basically, they're going to start taking things into their own hands, because as usual,
Mm-hmm.
And especially for the African American community. I mean,
it's unfortunate to say, and we do have to say it because it is a big point in this case. Police at this time, if these victims were white, it would have been national news. The first body they found. Mm. It's sad to say, but it's true.
Yeah.
They considered, like, they wrote off the first 2 victims as drug related.
Yeah, automatically.
They weren't even murdered the same way. It'd be different if it was 2 gunshot wounds.
Yeah, but one was strangled.
One was strangled, and one was shot with a .22 and hidden.
Yeah.
So what I think is, I don't think the first victim, the .22 caliber boy, was part of it.
Right.
I think that he had been killed before, left there, and it was just a coincidence that the strangulation child, the one he murdered him, dumped him in the same area.
Right.
I don't think it was the same person, just because of the fact that the MOs are different, the signatures or whatever. And I think he was the only boy that was shot, like, out of all the victims.
I think so.
So
we're going to get in, I think, more about some of the other victims. But I think
so. So far, in my opinion, and this is complete speculation, that I don't believe that boy was part of it and stuff. Now, do I think it was drug related? No. I just think that maybe 2 kids were playing with a .22 and accidentally shot him, and he didn't want to get in trouble. No. That's what I think. I don't think it was drug related.
No.
But yeah, that's my opinion. I think the first boy that the second boy, I guess.
Right.
The first boy, technically, that was killed, wasn't part of it.
So even with the community on high alert, kids kept disappearing. In March 1980, Willie Mae Mathis was watching the news with her 10-year-old son Jeffrey when they both saw investigators moving the body of one of the victims. She warned her young son about interacting with strangers. He said, "Mama, I don't do that, and I don't talk to strangers," Mathis recalled. Tragically, the very next day, Jeffrey went to the corner store to get a loaf of bread, but he never made it there, and his remains were found a year later. So, like, they saw it. They were on alert, She said, don't talk to strangers. All the precautions were in place, and he still got taken.
Yeah. It's one of parents' biggest fears.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Is sending your child out for something or having your child go out and play
Yeah.
and never making it back.
It's kind of sad that that's even a concern, you know?
Absolutely. It really is. And I mean, even when people say, "Oh, they were simpler times back then," you know that famous saying that everyone does, that we played until the streetlights came on and stuff. This right here, this case in particular, this right here it wasn't better back then.
No.
It wasn't safer. It's just as dangerous as it is now. In fact, I think it might be safer now because we do have like freaking cameras all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah,
Everyone has a 4K camera.
It's such a thing with the older generations, and they're talking about how we could leave the doors unlocked and
false memories,
all of that stuff. Yeah,
I think it's false memories. So people,
nostalgia kind of has a way of
blinding you.
Yeah, exactly.
Like people were like, "Oh, those video games in Super Nintendo, so great and stuff," and then you play them now, they do not hold up to our graphics nowadays.
Yeah.
So nostalgia does play a big part of it. I agree,
absolutely.
But no, when people were like, "Oh, it's so much safer back then,"
it's
and
probably definitely
that,
a little bit safer now.
Yeah, it is. And
in some ways, no. I mean,
obviously, internet is just a new way for these people to get these children. But
sure.
I'm just saying, like, it's not safe, and it hasn't been safe forever.
Right. So the circumstances of the deaths varied in the Atlanta child murders. Some children died of strangulation, while others died of stabbing, bludgeoning, or gunshot wounds. Worse yet, the cause of death for some of the victims, like Jeffrey Mathis, was left undetermined. By May, the grieving families had still not received any significant updates on the investigation, and frustrated by Atlanta Mayor Maynard Jackson's inaction and the reluctance of the Atlanta police to recognize the murders as connected, the community began organizing on their own. So in August, Camille Bell, the mother of Yusuf Bell, joined forces with other parents of victims and formed the Committee to Stop Children's Murders. The committee was supposed to act as a community-powered coalition to push for accountability over the stalled investigations of the slain kids. So basically, they're like, hey, do your damn job. We're not going to let this, get pushed off to the side or, none of this other stuff. We're here. We're going to be loud about it until somebody listens and somebody does what they're supposed to do.
Absolutely. And I don't think that all police officers or detectives do this. I really don't. I think they have multiple caseloads. Like, say that, like, and this is not advocating for the police whether they did their job or not.
Right.
I don't know. I wasn't there. We're just looking at past research. Like this has already happened, so we don't know if they did their job or if they slacked or tried to push it under the rug. We don't know. Obviously, these parents had a right to be vocal, very vocal about justice for their children.
Yeah,
absolutely. There's no discussion about that. I'm saying that detectives do have multiple cases. It's not like a series of CSI where they get one case per episode and they solve it by the end of the episode. No. That's not accurate at all.
Yeah.
It takes years and years of investigation
work. They get backlogged
and most of the time when they catch serial killers, it's completely by accident.
Yeah, it's usually a screw up on the serial killer's part, to be honest.
Like a parking ticket with David Berkowitz.
Yeah, or BTK, getting on the library computer stuff.
They trapped him a little bit.
Yeah.
But that was good police work.
Or, who was it?
Jeffrey Dahmer, when his victim escaped.
Yeah. But the other one, man, I'm drawing a blank. Big guy.
John Wayne Gacy?
No, the other one.
Oh, Ed Kemper.
Yes, Kemper.
Ed Kemper. When he called them and said, hey, come get me. But with the detectives, it's hard for them because they're like, okay, we see all the clues now because it's already happened.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, well, how did you not link this from this? Because when they catch the killer, usually, and I'm not saying in this case, but usually when you catch the killer, they kind of fill in the blanks a little bit. So we're like, what was it called? Side chair detectives or
ones that are watching after the fact or whatever.
Like sideline quarterback or whatever.
Right.
And it's kind of funny because these detectives, they're trying their hardest. I mean, they have their own problems and everything like that. But when they just like try to find an out, it's unacceptable.
Yeah.
They should take every case, regardless of anything, seriously and try to get the killer.
Shortcuts,
don't take any shortcuts because you're doing a disservice to the families for closure,
Yeah.
and a disservice to the victims.
And any future victims if they haven't caught
Absolutely,
the killer.
absolutely.
So incredibly, that worked. The committee getting together and kind of forcing their hand worked. The city significantly increased both the size of the investigations task force and the total reward money for tips. Bell and the committee members also successfully galvanized the community to become active in safeguarding their neighborhoods, kind of having neighborhood watch type deals. We were encouraging people to get to know their neighbors, Bell told People magazine. We were encouraging the busybodies to go about back to dipping into everybody's business. We were saying that if you tolerated crime in your neighborhood, you were asking for trouble.
Absolutely, and this is the complete right move for this town or city, because they were under attack.
Yeah.
Their children were under attack, and they made the right moves. They stood up and said, "We're not going to take this laying down."
Yeah.
And I love Mrs. Bell for this.
Yeah.
Because she is the real hero of the story. Because I think without her, I don't think the killings would have stopped
Probably not, yeah.
when they did. Like, obviously, there was a lot more victims after that. But, like, I think that if she just kind of, like, didn't say anything, didn't voice anything, I think it would have been a lot worse.
Yeah, they would have shut the case and been like it was, not related.
Yeah,
and
or they would have put
been
it drug.
Yeah.
That's their favorite thing. When they can't solve
Drug,
something, they
suicide,
put it drugs.
or,
Or just,
natural causes or unexplained, whatever.
yeah, absolutely.
So also the murder of 13-year-old Clifford Jones, a visitor from Cleveland, also helped push Atlanta's authorities in action. So the murder of a tourist made national news, and that also helped give the case national attention. Meanwhile, local citizens armed themselves with baseball bats, volunteering for the city's neighborhood patrol. And other volunteers joined the citywide search to uncover clues that could help solve the case. So everybody was working on this. Random citizens, parents, detectives when they were off duty.
Yeah, absolutely.
Several different multiple departments, the FBI at one point.
Like I said, this is an attack on their city. Mm-hmm. That's how they should look at it. Obviously, let the police do their job. If you find something and stuff, let them take care of it, arrest them, and everything like that. Don't be a vigilante.
Yeah.
But you can be vigilant and report back and notice things.
Yeah, because every little detail.
Yeah, every detail in any investigation helps. And that's why tip lines are there.
Yeah,
it's for
because
random
they have to
citizens.
sort through a lot of fake stuff, but every once in a while they'll get that one
tip that pays off. The parking ticket for David Berkowitz was a tip.
Yeah. All right. So a few months after the committee's formation, Georgia officials requested that the FBI join the investigation, and the FBI actually on their website has the case files for people to just look at.
Absolutely. There's some stuff that is redacted.
Yeah, obviously,
just for legal purposes. But most of the time, you can read pretty much
between the lines.
Yeah, between the lines, what actually happened. They have a lot of information on there.
Yeah.
Definitely go check that out.
5 of the nation's top homicide detectives were brought in as consultants, and 2 U.S. Justice Department officials were also dispatched to the city to provide support. So, finally, authorities were taking the case seriously.
Sadly, it took numerous bodies.
Yep.
Unfortunately, of children.
Now we're going to start getting into the arrest and conviction of the main suspect of these murders. Yep. So from 1979 to 1981, 29 children and young adults were identified as victims in the murders. So on April 13th, 1981, FBI Director William Webster announced that the Atlanta police had identified the killers, seemingly indicated multiple perpetrators of 4 of the slain children. However, authorities lacked sufficient evidence to file charges. Then, a month later, a police officer working the department's stakeout operation along the Chattahoochee River heard a splashing sound. The officer then saw a station wagon pass overhead on the South Cobb Drive Bridge. Suspicious, he decided to stop the driver for questioning. That driver was a 23-year-old man named Wayne Williams. The officer let Williams go, but not before grabbing a few fibers from his car. And just 2 days later, the body of 27-year-old Nathaniel Carter was discovered downstream. Eerily, the body wasn't far from the body of 21-year-old Jimmy Ray Payne that had been found just a month earlier. So that's a 27-year-old and a 21-year-old both found in the river not far from each other within like a month span.
Yeah.
So that they are pretty suspicious of Williams for the splashing and all this stuff like that. But what gets me is the fact that they were older.
Okay. Now, is that the only evidence that they have? The splashing, the bodies dropping into the river?
Yeah, I'm going to...
Because...
I'll go more.
That's circumstantial at best.
Yeah, that could just be a coincidence.
Yeah, he could literally just been hanging out, and
So,
someone other than him dumped the bodies.
Yeah. In June 1981, Wayne Williams was arrested in connection to the deaths of Payne and Carter. He would later be convicted of the murders of both men, who were among the few adult victims in the Atlanta murders case. And Williams was sentenced to life in prison. But although he was accused of being the Atlanta child killer, he was never convicted of any other murders besides those two. So, the two adults. So, since Wayne Williams' arrest, there have been no more related killings. At all. The child murders basically stopped.
Yeah.
That we know of. That they've
absolutely
been able to find. So,
when the heat becomes
that's another thing that makes people
high,
think that, this is Williams that did it, but...
Yes and no, because serial killers usually do not stop. BTK was the exception. He stopped for a long, long time.
Right.
Because he had something else to focus on with authority-wise.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if they checked any outlying areas or different cities
around the area. Connected murders.
I imagine they did, because the FBI has a database.
They would have had to have been able to look for connections and stuff like that. Especially because an important thing to remember is that these were all African American children, all of them.
Which means most than likely the serial killer was African American
too.
But could these have been hate crimes? We are in the Deep South.
Yeah. And
with the history of the Deep South, especially back 20 years before this, Jim Crow laws, strangulation, lynching, I mean, it's not a big stretch.
You think it's a hate crime, race-related crime?
It may be a white supremacist group. I'm not saying that it is. It's speculation, 100%. Yeah. But I'm just saying I would not rule that out. Right. I would definitely check into that.
Now, it could be that. It could be a serial killer or multiple serial killers, which would explain the different methods of...
I think most of them were strangled.
Most of them were strangled, yeah. So that would point towards a single...
With the stabbing, I think that maybe that was just like maybe they fought a little bit too hard, or he couldn't take them by surprise to strangle them, because it's quite difficult to strangle somebody. It takes a while. And the stabbing was kind of like, oh, I'm going to get caught, or he may have been entering his berserker mode.
Right.
Which is like right before they get caught, they usually enter a berserker mode. And it's usually when it's like they can't control their impulse anymore, or their I guess their impulse to kill.
Yeah.
And they had they kill them quickly.
Yeah.
But strangulation, if it is a serial killer, completely sexual. Is the power kind of like what a control raper would do. Like they dominate and they strangle, and he's probably impotent.
I don't know.
But
no, it's hard to know if it's one or multiple, or if it's even a serial killer, and like you said, not hate crimes. It's hard to tell.
It really is, and especially, and that's why it's our history is so sucky, to be honest with you. It's because if we didn't have any slavery in our past, any hate crimes towards African Americans or people of color, if we didn't have all that, definitely 100% serial killer. We wouldn't even question it. We wouldn't be like, oh, well, yeah, no one could kill these kids because they hated the color of their skin.
Yeah.
But because we have that history, it's muddled it up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's horrible.
Yeah.
And just the simple fact that they're children.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very sad and devastating.
Yeah. There are some who remain skeptical that Williams is the killer, including some of the victims' families, and Williams himself maintains, his innocence. He's saying he didn't do it. Additionally to that, Wayne Williams' conviction relied on a few strands of fiber that the prosecution claimed were found on the bodies of Carter and Payne. Apparently, these fibers matched a rug in Williams' car and a blanket in his home. But fiber evidence is often considered less than reliable, and discrepancies in witness testimonies cause more doubt on Williams' guilt. So, a number of alternate theories that have cropped up throughout the years go from ringing from a pedophile ring to government conducting horrific experiments on black children. One of the most widely believed theories, though, is the KKK was behind the Atlanta child murders. So that was a theory as well.
Definitely jumped on the right bandwagon for that. Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So in 91, it was revealed that a police informant allegedly heard a KKK member named Charles Theodore Sanders verbally threatened to choke a black teenager named Luby Jeter after the boy accidentally scratched his truck while the Atlanta child murders were still happening. So during that period. Horrifically...
I mean, that's just really a threat from a racist piece of crap. But
horrifically, Jeter ended up becoming one of the victims. So
see, that's a little bit more than coincidence.
His body was discovered in 81.
They didn't look into him?
I guess not.
At all?
Just weeks after Sanders' threat, his body was found.
Yeah, that's the first person I'm going to go to.
And he had been strangled, and his genitals, lower pelvic area, and both feet were all missing.
His lower genitals?
Lower pelvic area and both feet.
See, that doesn't make sense, though.
That's what's so weird about all of these.
The lower pelvic area, that's more sexual.
I don't know how that portion of that stuff goes.
I don't know. I'm not a psychiatrist at all. And the reason I'm like, oh, well, that's sexual and that's the sexual killing and stuff is because I've watched a lot of documentaries and I've read a lot of stuff about serial killers. And it's kind of like a rinse and repeat. Like I'm spitting it out. Like I'm taking it in and spitting it out.
Yeah.
But no. Like did they report this this threat that this guy made to this child at the same time or before he was killed or after?
So
was the report made after? Because that right there, if it's after, then complete speculation. That's part of why they didn't look into it.
The report of the threat was after? I think it was probably reported beforehand.
Okay, if it was reported beforehand, they should have definitely looked into him.
Seriously,
they should have took it seriously and looked into him very
exactly. I 100% think he had something to do with something because years later, in the 2015 report in Spin Magazine, details of a high-level secret investigation by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation and other law enforcement agencies apparently found that Sanders and his white supremacist family members planned to kill more than 24 black children to incite a race war in Atlanta.
Why? Why is it always a race war?
I don't know why is everybody obsessed with race wars.
Charles Manson, everybody else. Oh my God, stop.
So, evidence, witness accounts, and informant reports suggested a link between the Sanders family and Jeter's death, and possibly 14 other child murders. So, to keep the peace in the city, investigators allegedly decided to suppress evidence of possible KKK involvement in the Atlanta child murders. So, but despite the evidence, the authorities' efforts to conceal the evidence linked to the KKK, many of the city's black residents already and still suspect that the white supremacist group was responsible for the crimes. So they tried to cover it up.
Okay, if they were responsible, right?
Right.
Let's speculate for a second. Mm-hmm. Say that it wasn't Williams; it was the white supremacist group, KKK or whatever they're calling themselves,
and he was just at the wrong place, the wrong time.
Yeah. Or he maybe did kill those two people.
He might have killed them.
Yeah, killed the adults. But anyways, or to say it was all the KKK. Why did they stop? Why? If they're trying to incite a race war, why stop? Because a person got caught. That's it. For one, he was a person of color, so that would do nothing for your race war.
I have no idea.
If anything. If I was a white supremacist and I wanted to start
the crime would be if it was the KKK.
Well, if I was the KKK, which I'm completely not, like this is speculation, this is hypothetical. Let's do hypothetical because I am not a white supremacist. I would kill white children. right? This is hypothetical. Listen,
Right.
let's listen.
Right.
Listen, let's bear with me.
Right.
I would kill white children, right? And then
Blame
frame Williams.
Wow.
That way, it starts the race war. Killing people of color and then blaming it on a person of color is not starting a race war. So that KKK theory is kind of like out the window about the race war.
Right.
So,
Yeah, the race
Do I
war part,
still-
maybe not,
Yeah.
maybe not wanting to incite the race war, but they definitely
Oh.
could be just killing them to kill them.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I do
There
believe
could be
that
no
the
reason for it other
KKK,
than they're fucking hateful people.
yeah, that could still be behind it. Absolutely, 100%. I'm not defending the KKK.
I know you're
Trust me. Like I believe that they full-heartedly could have killed these children, but I'm just saying I don't think they did it to incite a race war. I think they did it because they're pieces of crap, and they hate a race because of their skin color, which is stupid.
Yep. So
yeah.
So the investigators maintain that they have enough had enough evidence to connect Wayne to the killings. William still is in prison to this day, but he's been denied parole multiple times. But he still says he's innocent. He says he didn't kill anybody. So in a rare interview,
I mean, really?
in a rare interview in '91, Williams revealed that he had befriended some of the brothers of the victims, as they had ended up in the same prison. He also said that he had been in touch with some of the victims' mothers. He said, "I truly hope they find out who killed their children."
Okay. That right there could be if he is the killer, again, speculation.
Yeah.
If he is the killer, then that could be his power again.
Yeah.
Oh, he's kind of like, oh, I'm innocent. Let me talk to the victims' families and stuff. And like he's getting a little kind of like a pleasure high from that. And a lot of people, like, when you go to prison, if you killed children, you're at the bottom of the totem pole. And especially if you sexually assaulted them.
Yeah.
Then you're way below that. You do not last long in prison.
No.
So, of course, he's going to be like, yeah, I didn't do it.
Yeah,
like, he's not
for
going to
sure.
admit to it because that right there, you find they find themselves in gin pop.
Yeah.
You know, they get killed because guards don't like child murderers. No one likes child murderers.
Yep.
Like, murder in itself is horrible enough.
Yeah.
But when you add a child or an infant or any kind
Somebody
of
innocent.
defensive,
Yeah.
defensive person or animal or something like that, you're a piece of crap,
Yeah.
and no one likes that.
No.
So, and there's a hierarchy of prison. Like even the most deprived of our society, have a hierarchy.
Yeah, for sure.
You're even a piece of crap to
Two pieces
to
of
the
crap.
deprived community. So yeah, of course he's gonna be like, yeah, I'm innocent. I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And stuff. So, like I said, if he did it, speculation. I'm torn between this Williams person and the KKK.
Yeah.
I'm leaning more with the strangulation to the lynching with the KKK.
I'm thinking we might. Hopefully, we'll find out something soon.
It could be both. He could have been the stabber,
Maybe. Yeah.
and then the KKK was
could
the
be multiple
strangulation.
ones. Yeah.
Yeah. So I truly believe that possibly I'm leaning more towards the KKK,
Yeah.
especially with the strangulation.
Just lines up, especially with
Yeah.
the threats of Sanders and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
despite the countless theories about what really happened, it's clear that most of it was left unresolved. And that's a big reason why the case has been reopened. So in March 2019, Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, who grew up during the height of the Atlanta child murders, reopened the case. Bottoms said that evidence should be retested using the latest forensic technology, which was not available during the investigations 4 decades ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, in an emotional interview following the announcement, Bottoms recalled what it was like growing up during this terrifying time. She said it was like there was a boogeyman out there and he was snatching black children. Bottoms added, "It could have been any of us. I hope that re-examining the case says to the public that our children matter. African American children still matter. They mattered in '79 and they matter now." Not everyone shared the mayor's conviction that the case needed another look. In fact, some believe it's basically already solved. I'm pretty sure we know who those types of people are.
Yeah.
There was other evidence, more fibers and dog hairs that were brought into court along with witness testimony. And there is the inescapable fact that Wayne Williams was on the bridge and 2 bodies washed up days later.
Again, completely circumstantial.
Right. Exactly.
That it could have been anyone. He could have been jogging. He could have been walking home from work. He could have been anything. Like,
Well, they're claiming that the fibers on the bodies matched a carpet in his house, and
that's like he
his
lived in the
car.
city of Atlanta. You know, like there was murders everywhere, and he lived in the city of Atlanta.
Danny-
Yeah, like, no, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. Danny Agan, a retired Atlanta homicide detective who investigated 3 of the murders, said Wayne Williams is a serial killer, a predator, and he did the bulk of these murders. So he's pretty convinced that Williams did it. So some insist that he did it. Police Chief Erica Shields believes that the murders, they deserved another investigation.
Absolutely. I don't think they were investigated as thoroughly as they should have been back then. A lot of it is technologically depravities, or like they disadvantages. They didn't have DNA, obviously. So DNA is gonna. And if I was Williams, and if I truly was innocent, I would really be pushing for this DNA evidence.
Yeah, for sure.
Because
They wanna find
if
out.
he fights it in any way, he's the killer.
Probably, yeah.
And I think that
Because you think an innocent man would want to be proven innocent at any cost to try to,
yeah, and people are like, oh well, they'll alter the DNA to fit him and stuff, and it could be. I mean, I don't know how DNA works. Obviously, I'm not a DNA specialist, but I'm just saying when they usually find DNA, and they've recently caught serial killers
Golden
using
State
DNA.
Killer.
Yeah, absolutely. Patton Oswalt's wife dedicated her entire life to find out who this Golden State Killer was.
Yeah.
She died. They found him with DNA.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously she didn't get to see the fruits of her labor.
Yeah.
But DNA is literally saving, or not saving, well, it's
Giving
saving lives
closure, at
and
least.
giving closures to these families. And me personally, I know this probably a lot of people are going to disagree with me. I think that every person should have their DNA taken.
Not me.
Yes. Well, it's all it is swabs.
Yeah,
Mouth and swab.
but still.
No, your DNA should be on file. If you don't kill people and rape people, you shouldn't be worried about it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that part.
And
but
yes,
I can also
I hear the
think of
argument.
that- yeah.
that they could frame you for something.
Yeah, exactly.
And stuff. But as long as they put
It's a hard medium because
it is, but like
I agree with both sides of it. I do agree that it would be a huge help having everybody's DNA in the database to be able to tell if somebody did something and be able to trace it to them.
well, I'm telling you
immediately.
now, every
I get that.
baby that's been born, I can't remember. I think it's like 2011 or 2012. They have taken DNA
Right.
when they save that umbilical cord and they freeze it. It's not just for the stem cells. It's for the DNA. I'm letting you know now.
Yeah.
If you've had a baby in the recent years, probably since like 2008 to now, your baby's DNA is on file. So if they grow up and commit a crime, their DNA is already on file. Which,
Yeah.
I completely agree with. I've had children. I know that their DNA is on file because of the umbilical cord. Good. That means if they get kidnapped, God forbid, if they get kidnapped or murdered or missing or something, that DNA can be helped to find them,
Yeah.
kind of thing. But I think it's very, very important, the science and everything behind it.
Yeah.
I think they've sent out numerous samples to a private lab as of June 21st, 2021.
Yeah.
So they have
So
sent out
Pretty recent.
absolutely pretty recent. And it does take time, obviously. It's not going to be like, we probably won't hear anything about this case again until 4 or 5 years later.
I foresee we're going to see a lot less serial killers in the future, and I foresee us catching a lot that have been flying under the radar up until now.
Absolutely. I think
especially with the strides that they're making with
with DNA, absolutely. And people with the 23andMe and all of those DNA things, because they found relatives. I think that's how they found the Golden State Killers. A relative did 23andMe or something like that.
Yeah.
Or something like that. They just caught someone because of that.
Right.
I can't remember if it's Golden State Killer or not. But yeah, I think that the DNA is definitely going to help.
So
If Mr. Williams is innocent,
yeah.
I think the DNA will exonerate him.
Yeah.
And
If
hopefully,
he's not, it won't.
if not, I think either way, I think it's going to bring closure to the family, and I think it will speed the investigation on. And to Mayor Bottom's statement about caring about African American children, like that should have been like their
A
children.
no-brainer.
Yeah, like
children are
any children should be important.
You'd think.
They are the future of our Earth, regardless of race, financial standings and everything like that.
Yeah.
So I completely agree with her statements about pretty much everything. It needs to get to the bottom of it. It needs the attention it deserves.
I 100% think it was probably Sanders and the KKK.
You mean Williams?
No, Sanders.
Who's Sanders?
Thomas Sanders, the guy that I was telling you about.
Oh, yeah, the white dude?
Yeah,
the white
one that
dude?
threatened.
Oh, I just associate him with the KKK.
Oh, yeah, KKK.
Yeah. Yeah, so KKK.
Or at least a portion of them.
Yeah,
Now, it could be
absolutely.
both of them. I'm not 100% convinced on Williams. I don't think
I don't think so either.
there was enough evidence to be able to really.
I think they just found somebody that was close to where one of the bodies was dumped.
It
and
was
like convenient. Let's get them, put them in the jail, and stuff. I'm not trying to take away from any kind of closure that the
obviously
family
we're no
is.
detectives or experts or anything like that.
And I'm not defending Mr. Williams.
Just watch
I'm
true
just
crime.
saying that, the evidence for me isn't concrete. And I really love concrete evidence when it comes to murders.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are put to death who are innocent.
Yeah, and vice versa.
Yeah. So I honestly don't agree with the death penalty because of that standpoint. Because unless we have irrefutable evidence that that person killed all of these people, then I don't think they should be put to death. For one, it's like hitting your child for hitting someone. Makes no sense. Don't murder while I'm murdering you. It's literally state-sanctioned murder. It doesn't make any sense. But that's a different time for us to argue about with the whole death penalty thing. But that's why it's unsolved. The case has been reopened.
Yep.
Definitely a very, very interesting unsolved case. 29 taken far too early. Devastating to Atlanta and the rest of the American people. Hearts go out to the victims and the victims' families. We truly hope that it is solved soon. With any of these unsolved crimes that we're going to go over state by state, we truly hope that they are solved. But with that being said, next week we will be doing another Urban Legends. It will be another state.
Ooh.
And
Love some Urban Legends.
Absolutely. It's been a while since we've done one, so
Yeah, for
kind
sure.
of jonesing for one.
Yeah, I don't know which state do you want to do. I was thinking,
What state? You pick a state right now, and we'll do it.
let's do Arizona.
Arizona, absolutely. Arizona, one of the later states to join the union.
Yeah, so if anybody from Arizona is listening, and you guys have a story to tell us, or any urban legends from your state, shoot us an email or message us on Twitter or any of our other social media handles.
Absolutely, and that link, it will be a link in the bio of this episode to find us at all of our social medias, and in order to get that contact and everything with us. So, and this season, we're actually going to do an outside country. I know we did True Urban Legends and something like that, where we did one around the world, but we're actually going to do a whole country this season.
Oh, nice.
And it's going to be our brothers to the north, Canada.
Canada.
So this season, we're going to do a true Urban Legends Canada, the entire thing of Canada. So if you are Canadian and you listen to the show, if you want an urban legend, for us to cover an urban legend or a cryptid from your country, go ahead and send it to us in that link below. And we appreciate you guys. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week with Urban Legends Arizona.